This mutation is called Bannable Offense, and it is played on Malwarfare. We have two mutators active. We have Power Overwhelming, and we have Evasive Maneuvers. So let's have a look at the masteries. Alarak going for 30 points into unit attack speed, 30 points into Deathblade cooldown, and 30 points into the Structure Overcharge mastery. Dehaka going for 30 points into Devour healing, 30 points into the Pack Leader duration, and 30 points into the Gene mutation. Alarak playing the Artificer of Souls, which is the P1 Alarak. And we also have Dehaka, who is going to be playing the Devouring 1 Prestige, and you can see that Dehaka is already starting to farm. Now, you might be wondering, I usually cast solos on this on these weekly mutation casts. What is going on here? This is going to be a meme build. These two players have figured out a way to have a little bit of fun with Amon, and they will be doing that right now. You can see that Alarak is attempting to fast expand, unfortunately does get shafted a little bit by Amon's forces, but this is going to be a meme build, which goes without saying, do not try this at home. So I want to talk about this week's mutation a little bit because this week is a little bit interesting. It was not really sure whether we would be getting Train of the Dead, which is mutation number 1, or if we would be getting this one. And basically what happened in, I think around 2017, you can check the exact dates, I cannot remember exactly. In 2017, Blizzard stopped, like, even though they were adding new co-op commanders, they stopped adding weekly mutations for some reason to the weekly mutations list. And so when, what was the last mutation? Is it What Goes Around? When that mutation rolled around and finished, there were no other weekly mutations in the weekly mutation list set by Blizzard. And so what happens is that the game automatically defaults back to the start and goes back to weekly mutation number 1, which is Train of the Dead. And this is usually why you will see that Train of the Dead is the most common weekly mutation that has been played, because whenever the list runs out, Train of the Dead is going to be weekly mutation number 1, which will be the first one that will be set and in the weekly mutation list. So I was not really sure given that set, because once after a year after What Goes Around came around, Blizzard decided to re-add weekly mutations, and this mutation, this one, Bannable Offense, is the first mutation that they added, and then we started getting the new mutation list. And eventually Blizzard kept up with the weekly mutations, and they kept adding new ones as time went on. So I was not really sure whether we'd be getting Bannable Offense and Train of the Dead, so I'm glad to see that it is Bannable Offense. The game is working exactly as I expected it to work, which is it will not really default to the historical order, but the in-game order that is there. See Dehaka already taking a little bit of damage because he has been irradiated by Amon's forces. So, the other thing I want to talk about is, there are actually quite a few things, but the other thing I want to talk about is Power Overwhelming, the way this works. Each player has a pool assigned to them, and Amon has a global pool of energy for his units. If you're looking for the exact mechanics of how this works, there's a lot more information on the Mutators page on Starcraft2.com. But basically, there is energy bars on top of each unit, but the energy bars from the top of each unit only shows you the amount of energy from the global energy pool that can be utilized by that specific unit. So as time goes on, like as you can see here, there is a little bit of downtime. Amon is going to be building up energy in the global energy pool, so once they start attacking into enemy forces, the enemy forces will start to cast a lot more abilities onto these hero units. So that is one thing to note about. And the other thing as well is as time goes on, Amon will cast more and more powerful abilities. So right now you can see that he has like a random barrier ability, defensive matrix and stuff like that. But eventually he's going to start casting black holes and all sorts of other nasty abilities here. So that is something to take note of when you are playing with Power Overwhelming. Also, usually always good to try and like intercept Amon's forces and be a little bit annoying, making sure that you are constantly, unfortunately, all those pros taking damage there. Dehaka intentionally trying to sabotage Alarak. But make sure, like, you know, you're constantly harassing Amon, and that will keep his energy, his global energy pool down. And this is actually why Stukov is a very good commander for this mutation. If you were playing P3 Stukov, for example, you know, your army is almost always in Amon's face, and it's going to be casting these abilities on you. And whenever you decide to then eventually push into the enemy bases, you're not really going to get hit by very powerful abilities. So that does make life a little bit simpler. We have Malwarfare being used right now. The first pressure tower has spawned, and these two players should have absolutely no problems dealing with this. Dehaka's going to be using the cooldowns. Where is Alarak? What is Alarak producing? We have a lot of gateways. You can see we have also a Warp Prism over here. And we have another Warp Prism in the robotics facility. Whatever could Alarak be planning right now? Only time will tell. Some of you might know what is coming up right now. So, Malwarfare is going to start pushing into the enemy base here. Small enemy camp. Going to be harassing him a little bit more. And we also have a random drone here, which can be a little bit annoying. So one thing to note as well, now, given that there is this little drone here, these point defense drones actually completely wreck Malwarfare. Apparently there's a bug in the game. Surprise, surprise. But apparently if you have a defensive drone, Malwarfare can't actually spawn any of her locusts, apparently. So beware of that if you are playing Dehaka. Make sure you are not spawning Malwarfare, like right over here, otherwise you're going to be very, very upset. We have another structure overcharge over here. These Zerglings have gotten the pulse around the Nexus, and this Nexus is taking a little bit of damage. Dehaka does jump in now and uses an Intimidating Roar to try and slow down these Zerglings, and he does manage to clean them up as well. Some Secret Missiles coming off as well. One other thing to note also about Power Overwhelming is that it is a trigger-based mutator, which means that Vorzoon's Time Stop, for example, will not stop Power Overwhelming from getting triggered. Units will still cast abilities on you if you even threw Time Stop, because the triggers are being cast, like the abilities are casted directly through triggers, which is the underlying code behind the map. So that code is always running, and Power Overwhelming is always checking for valid targets, which is also why, like, you can't really stasis a unit and then try and attack it and not get hit by Power Overwhelming. It's like, it's almost impossible to avoid. There are a few other commanders that do kind of work well, so we have like Manx Ghosts, they're able to deal damage. I covered that on the Mythbusters episode as well. They are able to deal damage with feedback to Power Overwhelming, but from my understanding, it's not really viable to try and go for Manx Ghosts unless you're, you know, really looking for a way to like meme on Amon's forces and, you know, just get the extra player. And you can see now, they are the final army composition of these two commanders. They are going for Hydralisk Warp Prism. And this is exactly why I said do not try this at home. This is probably one of the worst possible builds you can get. Dehaka's Hydralisks are Garbo, and Alarak's Warp Prisms are completely Kick W. So don't go for this. Actually, funnily enough, when I used to stream co-op, I did once had someone ask me to do a mass Warp Prism build, and I actually did this build, and on stream I was sarcastically saying like how OP mass Warp Prisms are because they started at 333 and then Blizzard nerfed them, and now you have to get armor and shield upgrades to get the maxed out Warp Prisms. So very, very upset. If anyone with Monk or Blizzard employees are here, I'm very upset with you guys. You nerfed this Warp Prism. It was so balanced before with a 333 start. But yeah, so Dehaka is like taking a little bit of a pouncing right now. He's trying to get away, but unfortunately the Zerglings do end up catching up with him and killing him off. So now the rest of these Warp Prisms now are going to get casted into a black hole, and that also reminds me, I was once playing Alarak, and I had an army of Ascendants, and I got Black Hole and Secret Missiled, and I lost my Ascendants, and I was very salty. So there are a lot of nasty ability combinations that can come up. This one is also a really bad one. I don't know whether this was intentional, but Dehaka moved his Hydralisk that was irradiated away from the black hole. If that irradiated Hydralisk was dragged into the black hole, he would have lost all his Hydralisks. So beware of that as well. This is going to be an absolute slugfest. Amon's forces casting Psy Storms and fungal growths on the forces of Alarak, and we also going to have a Secret Missile over there hitting a huge number of these Warp Prisms, and there's a lot of humanity over here. Doctrine is spawned as well now to try and provide a little bit of damage out, but Doctrine is not really particularly good against the Suppression Tower, and he has to do something about it. There's another Secret Missile and a lock-on from the Suppression Tower, but a very nice dodge there from Alarak, and now he is going to have to do something about it, but there's another lock-on over here, but I think Alarak is not paying attention to the micro. Oh, he does move out of the way, and now he has to try and take out the Suppression Tower. Piranha's Transport sitting at about 5,600 damage, another lock-on Alarak's forces, but Alarak is well aware that that's about to happen. He's going to move out of the way, and now he's going to be warping in some more Supplicants over here with Alarak as well. So what is he going to do? Yeah, he's going to start attacking Alarak. He wants to try and feed these Warp Prisms. These Warp Prisms actually do get buffed as well. Remember, he is using the Artificer Soul Prestige. So, you know, he is eventually like going to pick up some more stacks and get a little bit stronger on his Warp Prism, but apparently, where are these stacks going? Very interesting. Is it not showing? Wait, it's not showing the full stats there. But anyway, these War Prisms, the top suppression tower is actually getting cleared out. And now the bottom suppression tower has spawned. Remember, Orion's transport sitting at about 50% HP right now. And again, another storm coming up from Amon's forces and a bungle over there. Very unfortunate. This War Prism has sieged up. 2 photon overcharges are being used over here. And that photon overcharge will be able to soak up a good chunk of the damage. But unfortunately, also, we all have this point defense drone that is being a little bit annoying. And now Alarak has used his Death Fleet to try and deal a little more damage to the suppression tower. Orion's transport sitting very, very low now, 17,000 or 1,700 HP. So he needs to hurry up there. And Dehaka is trying to push in with the rest of his forces over here. So Alarak is working away on the suppression tower. Dehaka trying to push in with his army of Murvar and her entourage, I think. Okay, he has some of his Hydralisks as well. Those Hydralisks are being buffed by the Devouring 1 Prestige, but there's a lot of inhumanity right now. But finally that suppression tower goes down, and Orion's transport being held together by duct tape and crazy glue. So feels good, man. And now the Dehaka is just going to start pushing into this little enemy camp. He's going to jump in. Unfortunately, those Hydralisks do end up focus firing him down. Remember, Amon's forces will focus fire down high priority units. And Orion's transport sitting at about 480 HP right now. The duct tape has fallen apart. The crazy glue is on its final strands, gluing Orion's transport together. And we now have Glavik being used here as well. Glavik should be able to help as well. Alarak just getting a little bit of a timeout from Amon's forces, being held in there by the black hole. And Glavik is being moved over here now to try and clear out a little bit more of Amon's forces. Dehaka jumping into the fray again and getting fungal. And now we have a hybrid behemoth that is very, very upset with Dehaka. So the hybrid behemoth casts a seeker missile on Dehaka, and Dehaka ends up just soaking up all that damage. And now hybrid behemoth versus Glavik, while Dehaka goes and charges the Ultralisks that are jumping away and teleporting away and casting barriers onto the Corruptors, and Corruptors casting corruption onto Dehaka. Dehaka has a huge complement of buffs there, mostly from the Devourer though, so that's okay. Alarak is just chilling out right now. He's building up some more of his War Prism army. He has, I think you can go up to like 4 or 5 here. You can go up to 4 or 5 Rogos if you want to do this mass War Prism build. You have to be so careful though, they are so fragile and so easily eaten by pretty much everything here. But I'm actually trying to find a War Prism that has been buffed by the Artificer of Souls. Buff, but I can't seem to find one. Okay, this one has been buffed. Yeah, this one has been buffed a little bit, so it's actually okay. Anyway, so Doctor now being spawned as well, and he is going to be just clearing up whatever is left of the enemy camp here. And now Alarak is still here. I think Alarak is just macroing up right now. And he is potentially also waiting for this next attack wave to come up, because remember, this attack wave is going to be spawning sometime now. He's going to be he has to be very careful. He hasn't really engaged Amon's forces in quite a while, and Amon's forces are going to spawn and they will start casting a lot of abilities on these War Prisms. They already have 3 overcharges coming out right now. Storm on these War Prisms, and there is a very nice dodge over there, and these 3 overcharges should be able to completely melt through, but unfortunately Amon pulls a counter Alarak on Alarak. He yoinks all those War Prisms in, and then he casts a Psionic Orb, and he actually takes out a good chunk of those War Prisms. So, well played, Amon. Unfortunate for Alarak. Alarak is not too happy about that, but he'll be able to reset this. He's only building War Prisms, so it should not be too bad. First Suppression Tower is already out, so Dehaka and his army of Hydralisks, like I said, do not try this at home. Hydralisks are just bad on their own. Hydralisks are a way to get Impalers and Mutalisks for Dehaka. They are not a combat unit, and they should not be seen as a combat unit. But Dehaka is going to show me otherwise, and now there is a black hole over here. There's a Seeker Missile on there. There was a Seeker Missile on there. A lot of these War Prisms taking so much damage. This is the AOM Master combo. Got hit by the black hole and then by a Seeker Missile. But Dehaka's Devourer is doing a lot of work. He's actually ending up healing up these War Prisms, and I'm going to do the final kill count at the very end, so take your guess. Try and guess how many War Prisms have died, and how many Hydralisks have died throughout the course of this mission. And And now actually Alarak has to try and go for the next suppression tower. So this is going to be a little bit tricky as well. The ability casts are what make this so difficult. So he's lining up his Warp Prisms over here, and now there's another harassment coming up over here as well. And Dehaka just get completely wrecked by the Devourers. Remember, these Devourers actually deal a lot of damage, and once Dehaka gets kind of dull, it is going to be somewhat problematic. Interestingly enough, though, like, Alarak is sieged up over here, and that's why I was somewhat confused. I was like, why is he sieged up over there? This is the next suppression tower. Remember, the order of the suppression tower is number 1, number 2, and then number 3, and then the other pattern is number 1, and then number 2, and then number 3 over here. Again, there is a video on the Starcraft2co-op.com Malwarfare page, and also on this YouTube channel. It's linked to the same video that shows you the spawn patterns for Malwarfare. And actually, that is kind of important as well. A good thing to note for some, especially some of the lesser experienced players, is, you know, once you've played this game a few times, you will memorize these patterns. It'll just become second nature. But unfortunately, secret missile there. If you are a newer player and you are newer to co-op, make sure you are aware of the spawn patterns for this map. There are very particular spawn patterns. It's very predictable once you know the first suppression tower spawn, because there is a little bit of randomness in that sense. But once you know the first suppression tower spawn, you will know all the other subsequent suppression tower spawns. And that is actually going to help you a little bit when you're doing this video. There's a lot of Scourge over there, and a black hole, and that is just absolute fatality on Alarak. He's getting hit by the Scourge in the black hole as well as a Seeker Missile, losing out a lot of the Warp Prism there. But yes, as I was saying, if you're a newer player to co-op, make sure you are aware of the spawn patterns on Malwarfare. It'll just help you get your army into position. It'll help you maneuver your army and, you know, be prepared, knowing which areas you have to clear and which ones you don't have to bother about. And it will make this mutation a little bit easier, because this mutation is... It's not particularly difficult, but it is very, very annoying. Especially with the evasive maneuvers, a lot of units that deal, you know, kind of splash damage aren't very effective on evasive maneuvers, so you end up losing a lot of potential damage output. For example, Alarak, you know, his Ascendants are great, but because of evasive maneuvers, he can't really use Ascendants very effectively. And it's the same thing for, like, Arcanas if you're using Psy Storms, and, you know, if you're playing Tychus and if you're using Nux, for example, you kind of struggle a lot when it comes to dealing with splash damage. And, like, again, these Warp Prisms taking a complete pounding from Amon's forces, but overall, like, Orana's transport hasn't really taken very much damage over here. So, some time warps coming down now as these commanders will start to push into the final enemy base here. Again, there's another Psionic Orb dealing a lot more damage to these forces of Alarak. Alarak down actually to how many Warp Prisms? Yeah, he has 13 Warp Prisms. There are a few more coming up along the way as well, which is kind of nice. But Alarak will have to reinforce his Warp Prism army, keep the memes running over here, and Dehaka now going to be pushing in as well, clearing out this enemy camp. But there is one final enemy. Actually, there are a few enemy bases that have to be cleared. So we have this one, and unfortunately, Dehaka, there's a money shot on the black hole over there, pulling in some more of these Warp Prisms. There's another Psionic Orb coming in, but Alarak does end up dodging this again. He does not want to get counter Alarak again. And now Glavik getting used over here to try and start pushing and clearing out these enemy forces. So there's another Warp Prism coming up, and the other ones are on follow. He has to be very careful because the Hybrid Dominator is very, very upset. And the Hybrid Dominator actually will end up moving around, but we have a Seeker Missile. Seeker Missile not targeted on the Warp Prism, surprisingly. Usually the triggers are very, very accurate there, but the Hybrid Dominator's Plasma Blast does end up catching out some of these Warp Prisms. So that is Glavik pretty much done. He's going to start pushing into this now, and there is actually a Black Hole on Glavik. I was not aware the Black Hole could disable Glavik, because I thought Glavik was a structure, but the more you know. So, we have a little bit of Zerg spazzing out over there. Alarak uses his Death Fleet to just take out some of these Scourge and soak up some more of these abilities. First Suppression Tower has spawned, and now Dehaka has to push in as well. And remember also, one thing about Dehaka is that even though these units have energy bars, they are not considered psionic. So when you devour a unit from Amon, it looks at the tags of the units, and like as you can see, these things are still not psionic, so he doesn't trigger his psionic fart when he actually does that. So remember that if you're devouring these units, you are not going to get those explosions that you'd be expecting if you're eating units usually with energy. So be aware of that as well when you're playing Dehaka. Don't jump in like seeing a Zergling and being, aha, I can actually kill off the entire tag wave. That is not how it works. So we have Alarak getting ready in position for the second suppression tower. Unfortunately, the first suppression tower has still not gone down, and Malwarfare is struggling a little bit. And you can see over here, there is just these Brood Lords being a little bit annoying right now for Malwarfare. So Dehaka has to get in the rest of his army, and now we have some Devourers and Guardians attacking Orana's transport, and Orana's transport actually taking a lot of damage. And I don't think any of these commanders have realized that there is a problem. Okay, Dehaka is trying to go in and trying to save and soak up this damage from Orana, which he actually ends up doing, and Dehaka's Devourer as well doing a lot of good work over there. Eventually, he's going to end up devouring something. He's going to devour some more. He has ended up clearing out that last harass wave. But now there's going to be another spawn here for Amon's forces, and as you can see again, there's another fungal, and there is also another psionic orb. But so far, so good. Alarak will be able to clear out the next suppression tower, and now there's another attack wave coming up over here, and this attack wave again. This is an air comp, which is kind of more annoying over there, but Dehaka is going to go in, jumps in, he needs to devour something. Does he want to devour something? He wants to just, okay, I guess he wants to just slap these lists. He's going to do that right now, and now we have two suppression towers spawning. Again, lots of good utility of the structural overcharge here from Alarak. He is able to clear out these harass waves, but again, there is a lot of stuff over here. These Mulisks are also standing guard, and unfortunately, Dehaka did get devoured himself. See what I did there? You know, Dehaka devours. He also had the devour ability. Ahaha. Okay, so we have the final suppression towers out, and Dehaka's Hydralisks do get completely wrecked by a black hole secret missile, which seems to be Amon's very favorite combo over here. Alarak War Prisms are going to be pretty much moving out of the way, but Orion's transport taking a lot of damage right now, and you can see the effectiveness of these War Prisms, which is absolutely zero. War Prisms do not do War Prisms over here, but Orion's transport sitting at 1,400 HP, taking a lot of damage on the suppression tower. Suppression tower trying to take out these War Prisms as well, and now we have Alarak using his deathly. And finally, that suppression tower goes down. So Orion's transport sitting at 943 damage, and I think this purification, this terminal purification will be done in just a little bit. There might be one more attack wave, I'm not really sure if the attack wave was cleared out or no. 20 seconds left. Yeah, there's the go. Very conveniently, this attack wave does spawn right in the middle with Dehaka in position as well. Unfortunately, there are no infestors here for Dehaka to beat, so he's going to use Glevik and clean this up. So, final guesses. How many Hydralisks, how many War Prisms were lost? And now we shall see. We have 101 War Prisms and 200 Hydralisks dead. Complete inhumanity, but there you go. That is the meme build, keeping Orana alive. And that is GG.